Ya Brahmano Madhusudana Vissana Chetasam Tena Kalpavyati Karambasa Loka Samstana Vijnana Atmana Parikidyata Tamaha Gadayavacha Kashmalam Samayaniva. Everyone can chant.
अथाभिप्रेतमन्वीक्ष्य ब्रह्मणो मधुसूदन विषण्णचेतसं तेन कल्पव्यतिकराम्भसा लोकसंस्थानविज्ञान आत्मना परिखिद्यत तम् आहाघादया वाच कष्मलं शमयन्निव.
अथाभिप्रेतम् अन्वीक्ष्य ब्रह्मणो मधुसूदना विषण्णाश्चेतसं तेन कल्पव्यातिकरं भसा लोकसंस्थानविज्ञान आत्मना परिखिद्यता तं भ- तं अग तम् अगध्याय वाचा कश्मलं समयन्न इव. Krishna.
Anyone else? Okay. Word for word translation. Ata, thereupon. Abhipretam, intention. Anvikshya, observing. Brahmana, of Brahma. Madhusudana, the killer of the Madhu demon. Vishana, depressed. Chetasam, of the heart. Tena, by him. Kalpa, millennium. Vyatikara ambasa, devastating water. Lokasamstana, situation of the planetary system. Vigyane, in the science. Atmana, of himself. Parikidyata, sufficiently anxious. Tam, unto him. Aha, said. Agadhaya, deeply thoughtful. Vacha, by words. Kashmalam, impurities. Shamayan, removing. Eva, like that. Translation. The Lord saw that Brahma was very anxious about the planning and construction of the different planetary systems and was depressed upon seeing the devastating water. He could understand the intention of Brahma, and thus he spoke in deep, thoughtful words, removing all the illusion that had arisen. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The devastating water was so fearful that even Brahma was perturbed at its appearance and became very anxious about how to situate the different planetary systems in outer space to accommodate the different kinds of living entities, such as the human beings, those lower than the human beings, and the superhuman beings. All the planets in the universe are situated according to the different grades of living entities under the influence of the modes of material nature. There are 3 modes of material nature, and when they are mixed with one another, they become 9. When the 9 are mixed, they become 81. And the 81 also become mixed, and thus we ultimately do not know how the delusion increases and increases. Lord Brahma had to accommodate different bodies and situations for the requisite bodies of the conditioned souls. The task was meant only for Brahma, and no one in the universe can even understand how difficult it was. But by the grace of the Lord, Brahma was able to execute the tremendous task so perfectly that everyone is amazed to see the workmanship of the Vidhata, or the regulator. Atabi pretamanvikshya brahmano madhusudanaha vishana chetasam tena kalpavyati karambasa lokasamstana vijnana atmana parikidyataha tamaha gadaya vacha kashmalam samayaniva. The Lord saw that Brahma was very anxious about the planning and construction of the different planetary systems and was depressed upon seeing the devastating water. He could understand the intention of Brahma, and thus he spoke in deep, thoughtful words, removing all the illusion that had arisen. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtai Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. Another more amazing information about Lord Brahma. We've been hearing about him so much in these, especially in second and third cantos so far, hearing so much about him. And this is natural. We're discussing creation. We've been discussing Sarga and Visarga. And of course, it's all originally coming from Krishna. But the Visarga part, after the initial creation, the construction and organization and manifestation of the universe and the living entities and the bodies and their planets, this is all being done by Krishna's servant, Lord Brahma. So I'm learning after so many months of hearing these classes in the second and third canto that whenever Lord Brahma comes up, I can immediately understand there's going to be some good lesson here, some very important lesson, some important philosophical lesson or point, and also some important practical point. Because Lord Brahma is so amazing. He's our Sampradaya head, and he's the first student of the Vedas and the first teacher of the Vedas, born directly from Lord Vishnu himself. And he makes his mistakes and his blunders, some of which even, become quite horrific sometimes. Also here in Florida, I recently in a Bhagavatam reading group of which I'm part, we not too long ago finished the Brahma Vimohan Lila and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and so much instruction. Even he makes a mistake, but he recovers, and it's such a lesson for us, whether he's really an illusion or whether it's a manifestation for the sake of teaching us. I can't say, but this is the amazingness of Lord Brahma. And Prabhupada says that at the end of the purport, everyone's amazed at the work of Vidhata. Prabhupada using this term Vidhata is actually a callback to the previous chapter. In the 8th chapter, there's a couple of verses, 2 verses, where Lord Brahma is referred to as Vidhata. And here he says the regulator. It means elsewhere he translates it as the controller of the universe, the regulator, the controller and source of everything. This is Lord Brahma, that the whole universe, he's the regulator and manifester and engineer of it all. We know how earlier Narada Muni said to his father, Lord Brahma, that this universe, it's like you understand it and control it, just like holding a walnut in your hand. The exact Sanskrit is Kara Amalakavat. So it's Amalaka. The Sanskrit is actually Amalaka, and then sometimes it's called gooseberry. So everyone knows Amalaki fruit. But Prabhupada intelligently translated it as, or sort of transformed it into walnut so that anyone in the world could understand the principle that's being taught. That this is Lord Brahma. He's also, besides Vidhata, he's also called Vidhi. Vidhi is also another name of Lord Brahma. Vidhi, we know Vidhi means rules and regulations, like Vaidhi Bhakti comes from Vidhi. So it means the rules the ruler or the rules by which everything operates. Sometimes it's also translated as fate, or that which determines everything. So this is vidhi, and vidata is another form of that word vidhi. In Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma is also addressed as vidhi, like that. And so it's actually the very last verse of Brahma Samhita. Aham hi vishwasya characharasya bijam pradamnam prakrite pumamscha maya hitam teja idam bibarshi videhi twamato jaganti. Vishnu is speaking to Lord Brahma and says, listen, O Vidhi, I am the seed, the fundamental principle of this world of animate and inanimate objects. I am Pradhan, the substance of matter. I am Prakriti, the material cause. And I am Purusha, the efficient cause. This fiery energy that belongs specifically to the Brahman, that inheres in you, has also been conferred by me. It is by bearing this fiery energy that you regulate this phenomenal world of animate and inanimate objects. So in the Sanskrit, the last line is vide, videhi. So vide means vidhi, Lord Brahma's name, vidhi, and videhi tells us what vidhi means, the regulator. As he says, you regulate this phenomenal world. So this is Lord Brahma's position, so big and so powerful and so intelligent that his existence is practically, he's and his body is so subtle and so in the mode of goodness that he's practically composed of intelligence. And he has this position. Now, when someone has a big position in the material world, if someone has a big position, they judge that position or appreciate that position by what they can get out of it. Oh, I'm the president. I can order people around. People will respect me. If I'm a CEO, I could get so much money. I could influence people. If I'm a movie star, I could have sex with whoever I want. I could control people. I could get money. I could get adoration. A big position is judged by the materialist in this way. But a devotee and a soul like Lord Brahma, the position is appreciated differently. The position is appreciated as a service to Krishna. So devotee, that's how he appreciates a big, big position, that this is my service to the Lord. And Lord Brahma's service is being described here in the purport, to create all the planets and all the forms of all the 8,400,000 species, but within those species, countless individuals. And Lord Brahma is creating, either directly or through setting up the template or the process for the creation of all these different bodies. So what an amazing and intense service this is. And it's service. He understands it as service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this, again, going back to the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the second process, Visarga, what Brahma is doing. All the planets and all the physics and all the biology and all the chemistry and all the creation of the bodies and growth of the bodies and placement of the planets and the different environments and the different situations, so complex and so perfectly arranged. This is the service of Lord Brahma. So naturally, a service this heavy, he's a little anxious. And how complex is it? Prabhupada gives an interesting analysis. He does it as this in a couple of other places. We understand that everything in the world is composed by the interactions of just these three modes, right? Goodness, passion, ignorance. It's only three. But from the interactions of those three, so much unlimited complexity comes forth. Like Prabhupada says in the purport. Let me, let's see if I could very quickly call that up again. Yes. So at the end of the purport. No, not at the end. Here it is. All the planets are situated according to the different grades of living entities under the influence of the modes of nature. There are three modes of material nature, and when they are mixed with one another, they become nine. When the nine are mixed, they become 81, and the 81 also become mixed. And thus we ultimately do not know how the delusion increases and increases. So this is a very interesting analysis, I think, that it's simple. There's only three things: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But from the interactions of them, the unlimited varieties of planets and species and living beings are manifested in this world. Just like humans are, generally speaking, humans are more in the mode of goodness, animals are more in the mode of passion, and plants are more in the mode of ignorance. But within that, there are humans who are also, humans are generally in goodness, but some within that mode of goodness, some are more in the mode of goodness, like the Brahmanas and the followers of Vedic culture. And within that mode of goodness humans, some are lower in the modes of passion and ignorance, like those who are not followers of Vedic culture. So they're in goodness as humans, but within that they're lower. Or animals are more in the mode of passion, but you take an animal like a cow, and within passion, the cow is more in the mode of goodness. And you take like a pig is more in the mode of ignorance. So this is what Prabhupada means: 3 into 3 makes 9, 9 into 9 makes 81. And this is called exponential growth. So just from the interactions of only those three things, variety, such intricate variety beyond our comprehension, that Prabhupada says we can't understand how the variety and the illusion increases and increases. Just like this is an old analysis that I read from Harikesh Prabhu, used to be Swami, but this is an analysis that I like. He compares it with DNA. Just like in DNA, there's only 4 bases, right? And the combinations of only those 4 bases creates all the unlimited varieties of all living beings, just from those 4. And if they're arranged, if one letter is switched with another letter, if one base is switched with another, it's a whole nother thing. And just like the difference between a human and a dog, we share about 80% of our DNA exactly with a dog. So just that 20% difference makes such a difference. And a human and a chimpanzee share about 98.5% of the DNA. So just 1.5% difference creates so much variety. And even human to human, we share 99.9% of our DNA between me and any one of you, presumably. But that 0.1%, it's so tiny, but look at the unlimited varieties coming from it. And that amazing, complicated, inscrutable variety and intricacy is all being managed by Lord Brahma. So when you appreciate a little bit the scale of what his job is, then yeah, he was a little depressed, a little anxious. Oh, how can I do this service properly for Lord Vishnu? How can I, because that's his position. His position, he's not thinking, oh, I get to sit on a throne, everyone's worshiping me. No, his position is, I have this very important service to do for Lord Vishnu. So he's depressed. We can almost imagine him crying or anxious about this. And Prabhupada also explains this in Nectar of Devotion, how we can become depressed or become anxious in our search for service. Prabhupada writes, in other words, one should learn how to cry for the Lord. One should learn this small technique, and he should be very eager and actually cry to become engaged in some particular type of service. This is called lolyam, and such tears are the price for the highest perfection. I don't know if Lord Brahma is literally crying, but he went through such a long time meditating and austerities just to understand what is my service to Krishna. And now he has that service, and he's a little bewildered and maybe a little feeling insufficient that, oh my God, this huge service, how can I do it? Uh, but the point is, he has the service and he's going to do it. He's going to do his best to do it. And any service, if a devotee endeavors to serve Krishna, and if he desires and cries for that service, then the benefit is so great. A couple of stories about that. Some of you, maybe Vishnu Gada Prabhu knows Riktananda, who passed away earlier this year. I knew him a little bit because he lived in Boston for a little while I was living there, Riktananda, Dasa Prabhupada disciple. And he tells a story, I think it's included in one of the Prabhupada Leela books, that when he was first initiated early, I don't remember the exact date, and then he was told, oh, you have to give some Guru Dakshin after you're initiated. So he was young man, unemployed, maybe hippie, I don't know his exact situation, but he really had nothing. But he had one old blanket. That was his blanket from when he was a child, and he had some sentimental attachment to. I didn't take it into my adult years, but I also, when I was a child, had a favorite blanket, a baby blanket. A lot of people go through this. And he had this, and he actually kept it with him over the years. And he thought, okay, this is something attached to, let me give it. And he gave it as Guru Dakshin. And he felt so ashamed and embarrassed because it's such a meager and actually really not very proper offering. And he was feeling so bad. But then the next day at the darshan with Srila Prabhupada, he saw that on the floor, there was like floor mats, and then they had spread cloths over the mats. In India also, they do like that, put a mat and then spread some madras or cloth over it. And he saw that his baby blanket that he had donated had also been spread on the floor to cover the floor and for people to sit on. And he felt so happy. Oh, I made this terrible offering, but at least some kind of service was accepted. So he was appreciating like that. Oh, some service. It was not proper. Like Prabhupada said. That also reminds me, we all know the story at 26 Second Avenue when the drunk man came in with the toilet paper, right? And Prabhupada said, see, he is not in order, but he is offering some service. So what to speak of something like that? But what happens when Krishna and Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada give a heavy service? Save yourself and save the whole world also. Become guru on my order and deliver all the people of your land. This is a heavy service, almost as harder, in some ways, maybe even harder, especially in Kali Yuga, than Lord Brahma's service. So when we receive that order from the spiritual master, save ourselves and also save the whole world by taking up Krishna consciousness, we naturally should also feel anxious and depressed. How can I do that? How can I save the world? I can't even save myself. It's such a monumental task. And we may also be anxious and depressed and cry. And even Bhakti Siddhanta, if a disciple of his would leave Krishna consciousness, he would cry. That means, he was also crying. He was anxious, depressed that, oh, I had this service that the parampara and my spiritual master gave me to deliver these people. And I'm crying because I could not do it. I could not save him. So this is the service that we're offered by the spiritual master. And in return, we offer the Guru Dakshin, which is some way to at least symbolically and hopefully really to actually pay back the spiritual master. Just like when going back some decades, like when I got initiated, I was doing book distribution at the time. So after a devotee got initiated, the temple allowed us to go out and sell books. And instead of giving to the money to the temple, we were able to, the treasurer of the temple would write a check and we could mail it to our guru as Guru Dakshin. And Another stellar example is Jayananda Prabhu, that he had a little bit of money, like in those days, and for a young hippie man, he had $5,000 worth of stocks that his parents had given him. So he, in appreciation to Srila Prabhupada, cashed out all those stocks and gave the $5,000 to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada used that money for printing teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Very important book and very great book, and very early book printed by Srila Prabhupada. And actually, at another time, because of that offering, Prabhupada was on a morning walk, and he was discussing about the start of book distribution in ISKCON. And someone said, "Oh, Karandar and Rameshwar and what was Karandar's brother's name? I can't remember right now. Maybe, do you know Vishnu Gada Prabhu? Anyway, one of the
Keshava.
Kesava, yes, some of the very early book distributors who really inaugurated it in ISKCON. But Prabhupada said, no, Jayananda inaugurated book distribution in ISKCON, and Jayananda was actually on that walk, but he was way, way in the back. So Prabhupada called him forward. And he said to Jayananda, you started book distribution. You gave me the money for the printing of this teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And it's also told when it was printed, there were like 10,000 copies made, and they were distributed at all the temples, and the temples had these boxes of hundreds, thousands of books. What are we going to do with them? And eventually devotees learned how to distribute them. But Prabhupada credited from that Guru Dakshin as the start of book distribution. So what an offering that is, the start of book distribution in ISKCON. That's to Jayananda's credit more than we can imagine. So this is real Guru Dakshin, not by the amount of money. Excuse me, let me just silence that. Where was I? Oh yes, that to actually pay back the spiritual master, please the spiritual master, just like Krishna in the ashram of Sandipani Muni, that he pleased Sandipani Muni. He went through some so-called difficulties, although he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was caught in the storm and left out all night, and the water flooding, and Sandipani Muni was so appreciative of Krishna that, oh, you do so anything and everything for your spiritual master. So this is Guru Dakshin, by taking the mission of the spiritual master and making it our mission and giving everything for it. So Lord Brahma had this anxiety, but he became qualified to do it. This incredible service that, like Prabhupada says again, we can't even imagine the incredible service Lord Brahma did. But he became qualified. How did he become qualified? He didn't enroll in college and get an MS in engineering. He didn't get an engineering degree so he could engineer the universe. What was the method? Like in the verse says, Vacha kashmalam shamayaniva. That Vacha, he heard the words of Krishna. Kashmalam samayan eva, and all of the dirty things were cleansed from his heart, cleansed from his consciousness. Just like in this verse, Lord Brahma is addressing Krishna as Madhusudana, just like in Bhagavad Gita, because he's the killer of the Madhu demon, but it also symbolically means that Krishna is killing the demon of all doubts, and all obstacles are being destroyed by Krishna. So this Vacha Kashmalam, we know Kashmalam, this is Malam. This means all the dirt within our heart, within our consciousness, is being cleansed by hearing from Krishna. And who heard from Krishna like Lord Brahma did? Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Lord Brahma is the Adi Kavi, the first scholar, the first intellectual in the universe. But he's only an intellectual because Tene Brahma Hridaya, because Krishna instilled within his heart all the knowledge of all the Vedic literatures and all transcendental knowledge were instilled in his heart. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavye. This is how he became qualified. And he also became qualified, again, from the words of today's verse, Vijnana Atmana, not by learning some material skill of engineering or how to put the modes together, like in chemistry class. Okay, you add 2 grams of this chemical and you add 5 grams of this chemical, and you stir it and you bring it to such and such temperature and you'll get such and such result. No, his qualification was vijnana atmana, knowledge of the self, scientific vijnana, scientific transcendental knowledge of the self. And we know that what does knowledge of the self means? It means understanding the Atma, that Atma is eternally, that is transcendental, nothing to do with the material energy, and Jiver Srupai Krishna Nityadas, always the eternal servant of Krishna. So understanding oneself, understanding Krishna, and understanding one's relationship with Krishna. This is actual Vijnana Atmana that Lord Brahma attained. And of course, this is Sambandha Gyan, and Sambandha Gyan is what we've been learning this whole third canto, is what we've been learning. So this is the method. When we get these daunting instructions, or even the small instructions, the so-called small instructions, like chant 16 rounds a day, follow 4 regulative principles. These are huge spiritually, but in one sense they're small because they're personal. It just attains to me. But these things also we may have difficult with, and that's the solution. The solution is not, although we may do things, we may change our diet, we may change our schedule, we may adjust our association, but the real solution is Vacha Kashmalam Samayan. We hear from Krishna, and then Krishna purifies our heart. And when our heart is purified and we gain the Vedic knowledge and Vijnana Atmana, then we understand our position and our relationship with Krishna. Then we can do all of these things, follow all of these things, and attain all of these things. This is Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyantaksto Yabhajani Vidunoti Siritsatam. Shrinvatam, when you have a desire to hear what? Swakata. It's interesting and significant in this verse, Swakata. That means Krishna's own kata. So Krishna in today's verse is speaking his kata, vacha, directly to Lord Brahma. And when we also hear from Krishna, that's also swakata. That's Krishna's own words, Krishna's own kata. Shrinvatam swakata Krishna, punya shravana kirtana. It's this hearing and kirtana and chanting are all auspicious. There's no downside. There's no negativity. It's pure auspiciousness. And what happens? Ridyantaksto yabhajani. The same thing as Vacha Kashmalam Samayan Iva. In today's verse, this is the same thing. Ridyantaksto yabhajani. Krishna, from within the heart, purifies the heart, removes abhaja, all the impure, inauspicious things from the heart of the devotee. Vidunoti suritsatam, for the truthful devotee, for the sincere devotee, for the intense practicing devotee. So the same anxiety that Lord Brahma is experiencing, it may not be exactly the same, but we can relate to that. We can understand that and experience it in our lives to whatever degree we are. And the solution that Lord Brahma attained from Krishna is the same solution that we can get today. This hearing Krishna Katha, studying Srila Prabhupada's books, purifying our heart and understanding the philosophy of Sambandha Gyan, that I am the servant of Krishna. Then even Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Garim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam, I can't remember the exact last words, is jumbling in my head a little, that even a lame person, what to speak of a qualified person like Lord Brahma, even a lame person who follows this process under the guidance of the spiritual master can cross over mountains. Even a dumb person can speak the greatest philosophy to preach to himself and to preach to others. Because, like I said, part of our heavy service is to ourselves become devotees and also deliver in the world. So this is available to anyone, as unqualified as we undoubtedly are. It's still possible. And when a devotee is empowered like that, it becomes amazing what a devotee can accomplish. No, before Prabhupada came to America, no one in India, no one amongst his disciples could have even dreamt in a million years what Prabhupada would accomplish. And sometimes I think he even surprised himself what he accomplished by surrendering to Krishna, by accepting the order of his spiritual master. He said, of course, at Prabhupada's very first meeting with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, the very first thing was preach Krishna consciousness in the West, in the English language. And also, that was at their very first meeting, and also in Prabhupada's last, not meeting, but last exchange with Bhaktisiddhanta by mail. Prabhupada wrote a letter saying, I can't be with you. I can't serve you. Your, brahmacharya and sannyasi disciples can be with you and serve you. But I want to, although I can't, I want to serve you. How can I serve you? And he wrote back the same thing that he said at that very first meeting. I think you could become a very good preacher in the Western world in the English language. So he accepted that service, and it's very nice in the Prabhupada Lilamrita. The very first volume is called what? A Lifetime in Preparation. No one knew that it was a lifetime in preparation, but it was. And then in the next life, planting the seed, and then this whole amazing ISKCON movement grew out of that, of Prabhupada's taking the service from his spiritual master and feeling the indebtedness to his spiritual master. And he accomplished something so amazing, so incredible, that no one could have imagined or dreamed that it would happen. One final thing about this, about how can a devotee accomplish these amazing, incredible things? There's a very nice section in the 10th canto, I think it's the second chapter of the 10th canto, describing how Krishna entered into the heart of Vasudeva, and then he was transferred from Vasudeva to Devaki before his appearance. So this is Prabhupada writing in the purport about Krishna entering the heart of Vasudeva from the 10th canto purport. Quote, in the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no influence of material energy. Dhamma swena sada nirastakuhakam. Any place where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present by his name, his form, qualities, or paraphernalia immediately becomes a Dham. For example, we speak of Vrindavan Dham, Dwarka Dham, and Mathura Dham, because in these places the name, fame, qualities, and paraphernalia of the Supreme Godhead are always present. Similarly, if one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do something, the core of his heart becomes a Dham, and thus he becomes so extraordinarily powerful that not only his enemies, but also people in general are astonished to observe his activities. So this is how we become empowered, because again, on our own, we're not qualified. This is the meaning of mercy, that we're given a service that objectively and by all measurements, we are incapable of doing. But by mercy, by empowerment, we're able to do it, or at least attempt to do it. And even the attempt will please Krishna and Prabhupada. Because again, Krishna enters into the heart. Krishna is always in our heart, inescapably. But when we hear from him properly, when we chant properly, it's described that when a devotee, when Radharani hears the holy name of Krishna, she wants millions of ears. And then when the holy name enters the ears and enters into the heart and dances in the courtyard of the heart. So when we hear like that, when we chant like that, when we serve like that, then of course Krishna is always in our heart, but he becomes manifest in our heart. And what was that line again? Yes, Ridyantaksto Yabhajani. Then it becomes, because Krishna is manifesting there, it becomes the Dham. And because the heart is filled with remembrance of the hearing and chanting and remembrance of Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, devotees, paraphernalia, all of these things, then the heart becomes a Dham. And the Dham, as Prabhupada quotes from the very first verse of Bhagavatam, Dhamna Swena Siddha Nirasta Kuhakam. Nirasta Kuhakam, there's no trace of contamination in the holy Dham. So when the heart becomes a Dham, then all the contamination is removed. And when that happens, the devotee becomes empowered and he could accomplish amazing things, incredible things. Incredible things like saving oneself. This is amazing after a gazillion years in the material world to come to Krishna consciousness, to be on the path of Krishna consciousness, and to approach and someday attain perfection in Krishna consciousness. This is mind-blowing. This is amazing. And beyond that, to be able to give it to others, to help others in their Krishna consciousness and gradually change the world like that. Another incredible thing. He becomes so, again, from this purport, he becomes so extraordinarily powerful that not only his enemies, but also people in general are astonished. I see sincere devotees all around me, and I'm actually astonished at what they're doing with their own lives, what they're doing for the benefit of others. It's actually astonishing. And it's all because they've purified their heart so that Krishna can manifest his power. And this is exactly what is happening to Lord Brahma here. He has this incredible service we can't even imagine. The complexity, the difficulty, we can't imagine. But because he hears directly from Krishna, Vacha Kashmalam, his heart is purified because he understands his position as the servant of Krishna. Therefore, he's fully empowered and he can do this amazing business of Visarga, which is why we have this whole world around us now, which enables us to engage in Krishna's service. And for the conditioned souls who don't approach devotional service, it's a place for their karma to play out and also for them to eventually be led to the path of devotional service. So for this, we can thank Lord Brahma, and we can take inspiration from this example of Lord Brahma. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. If there's any questions or comments, we can discuss now. Yes, Vishnu Gada Prabhu.
Thank you, Acharya Prabhu.
Thank you.
I didn't know Riktananda Prabhu. He was in Boston. I didn't. Well, there's another very similar story in the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita about Upendra, almost the exact same thing. So those are two different devotees that almost the exact same thing about them giving Guru Dakshina of their baby blanket.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I hope I didn't confuse the story. I'm going to have to go back and look it up, but I was pretty sure it was Riktananda, but
Yeah, it could happen more than
yeah,
once. Sure, why not?
maybe more people are attached to their baby blankets than
Oh,
we know.
definitely, definitely. Yeah.
I had one, my son had one, perhaps many of us had.
Yeah, and then if you have any insight about Srila Prabhupada, is 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 9 is 81. That's 3 squared or 9 squared.
Right.
Any insight about why it would be squared?
I think it's just a way of saying that the three interact with each other and interact with each other again and again. So whether it's literally mathematically squared or he's just giving an idea of this kind of exponential growth, uh, to understand the complexity and magnitude of it, I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
But that's how I took it. It's his way of explaining this exponential growth of the complexity and the interactions of the modes in different ways. Does that make any sense?
Sure, sure. You know, if we hear sometimes that sattva is prominent, but always the three modes are not, the other two modes are still present.
Right.
So you have a combination of sattva prominent, but then rajas and tamas, or then tamas more secondary and then rajas left. But that would only give six.
Right.
But so there's some other things are going on. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. They're just very complex and interacting on multiple levels.
Okay.
Just like in economics, they talk about high class, middle class, and low class, or upper class, middle class, lower class. And then there's upper, middle upper, and lower upper, and upper middle, middle middle, lower middle, and upper lower, middle lower, and lower lower. So
Okay.
those three get divided into nine in that way. And then if you choose,
Okay.
you can subdivide
Okay.
them further.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly in detail what he means, but I just take it that it's a very complex ongoing interaction. It's not just, okay, there's three and that explains everything, but those three interacting with themselves and with each other leads to all sorts of complexity and variety.
Okay. Yeah, sure. That sounds reasonable. Uh, then you were quoting from Brahma Samhita about vidhi. And
Yes.
earlier in the Brahma Samhita, there's the verse Shristi Stiti Pralaya Satana Shaktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga. So that in that verse, Lord Brahma praised that Durga is the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything.
Hmm.
Shristi Stiti. So do you have any inkling or references about how Durga's creation interacts with Brahma's creation?
I don't.
Okay. Okay.
Is it a different type of or aspect of creation that's being discussed or a different angle of vision? I couldn't say for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know either. Then
Yeah.
there's
Of
you were
course,
talking.
at the stage we're talking about in today's verse, there's no Durga yet. So at least this part is all Brahma.
Well, there's different Durgas, of course. There's Durga with Sadashiva, who's beyond this.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know which one. And yeah, I read the purport of the that verse, and it doesn't give additional descriptions, but it does say there's even a Durga in the spiritual world.
Okay.
So that's very interesting. So
Yeah, I couldn't say for sure then.
they're all Shaktis of Vishnu.
Right.
Yeah. Lakshmi is a expansions of is
Right.
Durga. Then you
And
mentioned
all of
about
them, and
go
all
ahead.
of them also, it's still the details of it I don't know, but the principle is also there that they're actually also doing it, empowered by Krishna, ordered by Krishna, that this is
Yes,
service.
yes.
So at least that point we could carry over, but the details of it I can't say.
Yeah, yeah. And recently there was Jayananda Prabhu's disappearance day, May. And it's
Uh,
very interesting that Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to Jayananda Prabhu after his passing.
uh,
And and that he remembered Jayananda Prabhu's donation in that letter. The first
oh,
thing,
nice.
just as you were mentioning that Jayananda Prabhu was the first book distributor. So Prabhupada, he didn't forget his contribution even after his passing. He said, "You gave me
Right.
the first one to give me that donation for the book."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
And
nice.
it's a wonderful letter
Yeah.
that Prabhupada. And I don't know any other time when Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter. Other devotees passed away, not that many, but during Prabhupada's time. But I don't know of any other time that he wrote a letter to a
Directly
devotee
to
after
him.
passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And just
And
imagine if if I could do a service that Prabhupada would remember, oh, Acharyas. I haven't done it yet, but maybe someday that Prabhupada will remember, oh, Acharya
I
did
don't know that.
service
I
for
don't
me.
know why you say that.
I'm,
And just one
I'm
little
judging
thing
by
with,
my life now. We'll see.
okay, well, and then one little thing, there's a devotee named Vishoka who wrote a little bit of a biography, or Krishna conscious biography of Jayananda Prabhu.
Huh.
And then there he makes it very clear that Jayananda wasn't a hippie.
Oh,
He
okay.
was not, he was like a straight guy with, button down collars and like this. And he
Okay.
was completely contrasting all the other devotees who had joined in San Francisco, who were practically all hippies.
Okay.
But just an interesting point. And
Yeah, that is interesting.
yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Anything else? Question, comment? Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for your very kind attention. I hope everyone there in Philly is doing well and has a great day. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha,
सर्वश्रुभ्यश्च
कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च,
पतितानां
पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो
पावनेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
नमः.
नमो नमः. Jai. All glories
Hare
to Srila
Krishna. Thank you
Prabhupada.
very much, Prabhu.
Thank you.